You wouldn't be listening. WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Well, the good news is the Sixers won last night. The bad news is the Phillies had a 5-0 lead, and they just completely imploded the lead. They're now down 9-6. So we'll keep you updated as the Phillies game goes along here on Game Night, the Power Hour here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We're talking some NBA and Sixers tonight. We got Bryan, Toporek, the co-host of the NBA podcast. Also, he writes about the NBA for Forbes Sports and covers the Sixers for Liberty Ballers. We'll get into a bunch of different things with him. You can also join the conversation at 609-403-0973 on the text board and your DMs. You can reach out to the show through the 973 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle. So right now we have the Phillies are down 6-9. Brogdon is in the game. He came in earlier because of the fact that Aaron Nola basically had a 5-0 lead, imploded in this game. Jacob deGrom also imploded. So anyone who was hoping for the under in this game is completely out of the running there. You might as well just pack your bag in and just hope that the Phillies come back and win this game. But on the flip side, how about the game last night? Can we talk about the Sixers last night? Because I'm telling you guys, I am a big, big fan of when a team has a comeback. I think that this Sixers team is starting to show you something. I think you're going to see this Sixers team take what they have been dealing with and turn it into a positive. I think this Sixers team is turning lemons into lemonade. And I'm not trying to, be over the top or ridiculous. But I'm just being real with you guys. I'm watching that game last night, and the first thing I think is, man, this Sixers team is playing like trash. I'm watching that game last night, and I'm thinking, this team could lose by 15 tonight. That first quarter was an absolute joke and abomination. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, maybe not out of nowhere, but all of a sudden, they were able to turn things around. The way they fought back in that game, the way that they came back and won that game, for me at least, was another great sign that this team has got something going on. I think that a game like last night is an amazing moment for this team to learn how to win. I think that it's easy to be a front runner. It's easy to be the team that goes out there and just easily wins night in and night out. When teams like the Atlanta Hawks won all those games years ago with their lineup of almost no all-stars, basically, Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver, was it Damari Carroll, Paul Millsap, Al Horford, that team, they went out there and they dominated most of the regular season. And then they fell in the postseason. There is something to be gained from adversity. There is something to be learned about who you are deep down inside. This Sixers team now multiple times this season has come back in games. They have fought their way back to win games. I think that is a huge, huge check mark in the box for them. I am a big fan and big believer in what the Sixers team did last night. And I think you saw that Harden didn't need to have a big scoring night, and they still found a way to win. Joel Embiid didn't have his best game of the year, and they still found a way to win. Those are the kind of games that make you step back and say, okay, I see you 76ers. Look, they almost won the game in Denver without Embiid and Harden on Monday. And then last night, I mean, let's be honest, Harden had a rough game. And as I said, Embiid didn't have his best game of the year. And you saw a Mavs team that got out to a lead, and for better or for worse, it felt like they kind of went on a little bit of cruise control. Doncic was not very efficient last night in terms of shooting. And of course, the turnovers were there for him as well. And you guys have heard me complain numerous times about the turnovers with the 76ers. The 76ers last night had 10 turnovers. Dallas had 14. I looked at Harden and I said, you know what? For as poorly as he is shooting tonight, he's not turning the ball over. He's playing some solid defense. He's giving you the assists. And I think games like that show you that James Harden doesn't need to be a 20 to 30 point scorer each day for the Sixers to win. Because last night they won with Melton giving you 17. Niang, aside from the horrible foul he had in the first quarter, he went 4 for 7 from 3. He did his job. Maxey, he went 4 for 9 from 3. He did his job. And how about the getting to the line? 25 of 30 from the free throw line, as I think the Sixers fought tooth and nail, and I was very impressed with the way they won that game. And those are the kind of games that you can look back on and with confidence moving forward say, I know this team can win games. I know they can overcome adversity because they have already done it. And that's what I loved about last night's game. They found a way to win despite all odds. We'll get more into, do we take games like that and project them to the postseason when we talk about this team? We'll get into that deeper with Bryan Toporek from the NBA podcast, Forbes Sports NBA writer, coming up in about 11 minutes from now here on GameNight. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Thursday night here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Phillies, they're down 9-6 right now, still in the bottom of the fifth. Obviously, the high scoring in this game has slowed down the pace of this game. I feel like this is not the game where the pitch clock is really going to let you know how quickly or not quickly these games are going to be. Because, first of all, for those who didn't see the game, there was a delay of game earlier that was absolutely ridiculous. So there was an issue with DeGrom's pitch comm, the device that goes in his ear that communicates between him and the catcher. And then the umpires all got together to decide, do we give this guy a penalty for delaying the game because of his pitch comm issue? And then they had to talk to the officials upstairs to see if they should do that or not. Eventually they didn't. They rescinded the ball penalty because of the delay. And that delay, you could argue, is the reason why at 2 hours into this ball game, we are only in the bottom of the fifth. And that's an example of the pitch clock can only do so much. The pitch clock can't solve all of baseball's problems. And I feel like, you know what? If we have a pitch comm issue on day one of the baseball season, I'm not going to be that mad. I'm not going to be that upset if you are going through this season and something like that happens to delay the game. It's not like DeGrom is doing it on purpose. I mean, me watching DeGrom, I'm not a good lip reader, so I have no idea what he was saying, but he did not look thrilled. He looked very annoyed that pitch comm was an issue. And the next pitch, though, he struck out Schwarber. And Schwarber was not happy because he felt like DeGrom got an opportunity to kind of, recompose himself. It delayed the entire rhythm of the at-bat. But can I point out some other thing about this baseball game? So you guys remember a couple days ago when JT Realmuto unfairly got kicked out of the game versus in the spring training game versus the Blue Jays because he moved his glove when the umpire was putting the ball in his glove. The umpire took it as a some sign of disrespect or something. These sensitive umpires. I've noticed now that every time Realmuto goes back to reach back for a ball, he's putting both hands up and waiting for the umpire to put it in his glove or his head before he throws it back. So it's interesting to watch that. By the way, former Philly Brad Miller just launched a bomb off of Connor Brogdon. It's now 11-6 is this game, and we're still in the bottom of the fifth. And here comes Rob Thompson making another pitching change. And see, this is the problem with a game like this. Does this game mean that the Phillies can't make another postseason run? Of course not. But this is the kind of game that leaves the Philly fan exasperated. It leaves, I remember when I was younger, my great aunts, my grandmother, my aunt, my grandfather, everybody, they were all diehard Phillies sports fans. Not just Philadelphia sports, I mean Phillies, okay? And these are the kind of games that they would all lose their minds over. And I would never forget it because I would be sitting there watching a TV or at the game with one of them, and they would all be losing their minds. And these are the kind of games why the average Phillies sports fan is characterized as Negadelphia, because these are the kind of games that make you as a fan look around and say, what is going on with this team? Why are they playing this way? Why are they doing this? You should be winning this game. You chased Jacob deGrom out of the game. He was on fire to start the game. And then after the pitch comm situation, he started to fall apart. Now, if it was because of the pitch comm, I have no idea. Again, I couldn't read his lips. But what I do know is when you have a 5-0 lead and you're playing a team like the Rangers, who are really not a great team, and you're the team that, the team that went to the World Series last year, and now you are up there and your bullpen is getting shellacked. Nola, Soto, Brogdon, nobody's pitching well at this point. So, again, it's not that this is the reason why the Phillies will not have success this year. This game is 1 out of 62, not the end of the world. But what this game is an example for why when somebody asks, man, why are Philly fans so negative? It's games like this. You come in here with all kinds of anticipation. I mean, so many people were looking forward to opening day of the season. This was supposed to be the culmination of another exciting, great season. And now you're already on your fourth pitcher and you're not even through 5 innings after you ran the Rangers out of their starting pitcher. Actually, they're out of 5 innings now because they got a pop-up. Good job, Vasquez, coming in. Phillies now down 11-6 heading into the 6th inning. We'll keep you updated on the Phillies throughout the show here in the Power Hour known as GameNight on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle. I'll get to your messages a little bit later in the hour. But coming up next, we'll talk more Sixers and NBA. Bryan Toporek from the NBA podcast and Forbes Sports NBA writer joins me next here on 97.3 ESPN.
Here's what you missed on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
The epitome of winning, the epitome of toughness, the epitome of the best ever. MJ. Charles Barkley criticized MJ.
Well,
MJ hasn't talked to Charles Barkley since. So, I'm sorry, what generation was MJ from? This is how players live. We're built this way. Get out of here with that. Let's stop acting like players weren't always sensitive. The greatest player of all time, the toughest guy, the most mentally strong, is sensitive towards Charles Barkley, saying he's a horrible GM and owner. Get out of here, Chuck, on that. And I love Chuck as my dude. It's not a generational thing. It's just the way it is.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN. Brought to you by
Ocean Casino. Get your game on at the Gallery, bar, book, and games in Ocean Casino Resort. Go to the Gallery. Go to the Ocean. Go for the win. For more info, visit theoceanac.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new place. Nothing is every day.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Nothing is every day.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right. You don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait. Text PLACE to 200-300.
The Dell Technologies semi-annual sale starts now with limited quantity deals on select performance PCs powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Save on select Vostro laptops with built-in security features and select Latitude laptops with enhanced privacy, collaboration, and connectivity. Save on select essential accessories plus free shipping and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com. Homeowners trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Business owners trust Jenkins too for light commercial services. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. Call Jenkins. One call does it all. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, and drain cleaning services. Call now and learn about rebates through the HVAC Energy Efficiency Program, brought to you by South Jersey Gas. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsonSons.com.
You're listening to GameNight with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Phillies are still down 11-6 as they enter the 6th inning. We'll give you updated on the Phillies and what's going on with them throughout tonight here on Game Night 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by Forbes Bank of Seattle. Right now, can we talk about the Sixers? Bryan Toporek is back, host of the NBA podcast, contributor for Liberty Ballers. Forbes Sports joins me now live on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers don't just break their losing streak, but they also come out with an impressive win last night. Bryan, welcome back in. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. Thanks as always for having me. How are you?
Doing well. So I said before you came on, to me, I look at a game like last night as an encouraging thing. Because when teams win games, it looks like they're going to lose. Like, if you would have turned off TV after the first quarter, you would have assumed they lost by 15 last night. Instead, they found a way when Harden didn't have a great shooting night, and B didn't have his best night. Niang had the stupidest foul at the end of the first quarter, but he goes, it's 4 threes last night. Like, they found a way to win, and I feel like this is an encouraging thing because this is going to benefit them in the postseason when they do end up in adverse situations.
Yeah, I'm with you. Doc Rivers was with you. He said last night, like last year, they don't win that game. They played poorly. It was like a C- game. He said they didn't have energy, no spacing. The ball wasn't moving. They couldn't defend. It's like, that's usually sounds like a team that lost the game, but they actually ended up winning anyway. So, Embiid has said repeatedly that the Sixers are going to need to be almost perfect or basically perfect to get through what's looking like, Celtics and Bucks in back-to-back series. And I agree with that. But it is certainly reassuring that, they have more resilience than I think Sixers teams in years past have.
When you look at the Sixers right now, Bryan, obviously it was a different conversation when we talked 2 months ago, 4 months ago, but right now, what are the 76ers to you?
I think they're a championship contender. I think they're one of the 3 best teams in the NBA. Unfortunately, the other 2 best teams in the NBA also might reside in the Eastern Conference. So, they have a tough road ahead. It's very possible that they wind up losing in the second round and it feels like deja vu again. But I think if you're just watching this team versus the Sixers of years past, you can see the differences. I think Embiid is playing better than he ever has. He has a pick and roll partner in James Harden, who he's never had anything like that before. Tyrese Maxey has gotten back into his groove in March since moving back into the starting lineup. I think they've really figured some things out after the All-Star break. And, I think the Sixers probably entered this season knowing that, health permitting, they were going to make the playoffs. They are one of the most talented teams in the NBA. They're one of the deeper teams in the NBA. Like, they could treat the regular season kind of as, a lab to experiment with some things for a little bit. So, I think there are some long-term benefits to moving Maxey to the bench for a while. I know he has said it affected his confidence and his mentality. So, obviously that is not great, but I think there are some data points to draw from that. But I think since the All-Star break in particular, they've kind of figured out, all right, these are the guys in the rotation. These are the rotation patterns that we want to go with. We're rocking more with like a James Harden-led second unit, which I think makes sense because he's the best playmaker on the team and he can set those guys up since those guys aren't necessarily as adept at creating their own shots. So I think there are a lot of reasons to be optimistic as the playoffs approach. The biggest question, honestly, is health.
You mentioned about Harden there for a moment. I want to get to him for a sec because one of my biggest complaints about the Sixers has continuously been the turnovers. The fact that when they lose games, they're averaging around 14 turnovers a game. When they win games, they're averaging about 10 turnovers a game. Well, those 4 turnovers realistically could be, a 6 to 9 point swing, depending on what team you're playing. Last night, Harden only had 2. Just 2 turnovers. I think that was big for a guy who he wasn't shooting well. He didn't look 100% either. Let's be realistic. But he got the assists. He didn't turn the ball over. I think that was a big reason why they stayed in the game because, how many times, Bryan, you know me, I've complained about I'm tired of hearing about how Harden's basketball IQ, how great it is, right? Well, last night was a game where people like me were told to shut up because Harden looked like he actually found himself and worked the court.
Yeah, and I mean, he looked sluggish in the first half, working off of, he came back after missing 4 games. He has this nagging Achilles injury, which he reveals after the game he's been dealing with for months. So that was a not so pleasant surprise. So, you figured he needed some time to work the rust off. The shooting wasn't quite there. But yeah, I mean, his control of the game, like there is just such a tangible difference, especially with the offense, when he's on the floor and when he's not, or in games where he plays versus games he doesn't. Like the whole team just makes sense when they're at full strength. And once you start to remove some of these key pieces, they can eke out a win here or there, but like they need to be at full strength with all of their rotation members to be the championship contenders that we think they can be. Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly encouraging that Harden is finding other ways to impact the game. And it's really a testament to how he's evolved over the years, like going from back-to-back-to-back scoring titles to now leading the league in assists and taking this step back, knowing, hey, I've got this 7'2" guy who no one can stop if they are single covering him. I'm just going to run this pick and roll, hit him with the bounce pass and, get him a full head of steam. He's going to dunk it every time or get fouled. Like, I think he's just playing the right way and he sets everyone up so well. I will say on the turnover note, I think the thing to really avoid, like there are 2 types of turnovers. You could just throw the ball out of bounds. Not ideal, but at least, you can go run back, get your half court defense set. The problem is these live ball turnovers because the Sixers transition defense can be sloppy at times. And it's something they'll need to continue drilling ahead of the playoffs. But cutting down on those, I think, needs to be the big priority.
What was your take on what Harden said after the game? The whole, hey, I understand that, this is going to completely go away. We still got to get out of the second round, like about perception of him and the team. Let's be realistic. Almost anybody who's a somebody has said the Sixers will go as far as, Harden shows up in the postseason. And it's completely fair because of Harden's history. And Harden kind of had a, hey, man, I'm really dealing with this Achilles injury, but I understand that the perception of me is this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not going to change until I think it's, even if they lose in the second round, like if it comes down to game 7, a last second bucket, like Boston, Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, like that is different than Boston or Milwaukee steamrolling them in 4 and 5 games and James Harden, going 3 of 11 and like looking like he did against the Bulls last Monday, where he didn't even want to touch the ball in the second half. If that version shows up, then all of the criticism is valid. I think I've gone back and said this really since the Sixers acquired him. They don't need that version of James Harden anymore. And like, that's the beauty of having a Joel Embiid or even a Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, Anthony Melton. Like they have the supporting cast in place where they don't need James Harden to take 25 shots and score 35 points for them to win. They need him to set the table for everyone else to do that. And if he does that, then they're going to be in good position.
Bryan Toporek joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Toporek on Twitter. He is the co-host of the NBA podcast and contributor for Forbes Sports and Liberty Ballers. I want to get to the competition for the Sixers now, because are the Celtics really flawed? Like, are they really like what we're seeing right now? Or is this like a fake out, like we're going to see at WrestleMania this weekend, where someone's going to pretend like they're injured and all of a sudden come back and win the match?
Yeah, it's a rope-a-dope. It might be. I mean, like Robert Williams was out for a bit, and that coincided with their swoon. And Robert Williams is very important to what they do, especially defensively. So I think the Celtics are kind of the same way as the Sixers, where when they have their full rotation in place, they are a terrifying team. I don't want to call them a house of cards necessarily. I don't think it's fair to say that about them or the Sixers, but you start to remove these key pieces and all of a sudden your foundation gets a little bit wobbly. So, Robert Williams, the question with him is always going to be health. He has picked up a number of injuries over the years and does he make it through the playoffs fully healthy, or at least healthy enough to play in every game? I think we'll just have to wait and see. But no, I don't think what we've seen out of the Celtics since the All-Star break, this inconsistency. I think they're a much better team than what they showed over the last month.
Who concerns you the most in the 7-game series? Is it the Celtics or is it the Bucks for the Sixers?
I mean, I think it's the Celtics just because of the mental baggage with them. They've beaten the Sixers a couple times in the playoffs in recent years, and Embiid has been part of those series. You've got it's just going to be the Tatum and Fultz storyline is going to come up again. There's just so much history between the two teams. And of course, I mean, regular season games aren't necessarily indicative of what's going to happen in a playoff series. There have been teams that, sweep the regular season series 4-0 and then go on to lose in the playoffs. But the Celtics have beaten the Sixers all 3 times that they played this year. The Sixers have beaten the Bucks, I believe, twice already. I think just matchup wise, the Sixers match up better with the Bucks than they do with the Celtics. Now we'll see. I mean, Jalen McDaniels, it's going to sound weird that I'm calling him out as a potential equalizer, but they were really missing a consistent two-way wing defender who they could count on in the playoffs. With all due respect to Matisse Thybulle, we've seen that story. We know how it ends. Teams will ignore him on offense so much that it's detrimental to have him on the floor in the playoffs, especially as you get deeper and teams are better. So, can Jalen McDaniels come in for 10, 15 minutes? Can Daniel House Jr. come in for 10, 15 minutes?
Can McDaniels come in and not commit a stupid foul?
Right. I know. I thought,
how confused I was last night? Like, why did he do that? Like, why did he body check someone in the middle of the third quarter? Like, even Luka was like, what is going on here?
I thought that was it. I thought he was just going to be benched for the rest of the year after that. I was so pleasantly surprised to see he was on the floor in the fourth quarter and hits a 3 right away. And I'm like, you just saved your job for the season.
Right.
But you're going to need a lot of different looks to throw at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So PJ Tucker is going to spend a lot of time on those guys. Tobias Harris is going to spend time on those guys. D'Anthony Melton's going to spend time on those guys. But having more guys off the bench in House and McDaniels, a potential equalizer. But we saw in that game, the most recent game between them, when the Celtics start their preferred starting lineup, and Embiid can roam off of Robert Williams, which he's been doing a lot more. Have Embiid serving as this kind of like all around safety near the rim because they've got a guy on the floor who you just don't trust or don't respect as a 3-point shooter. It really clogged things up, and the Sixers starters walloped the Celtics. But then when the Celtics went to the bench, the tide flipped. So we'll see. I think it's going to be, right now, it looks increasingly likely that the Sixers are going to hold on to the 3 seed. I don't think they're going to catch Boston for the 2. So I think it is going to be Celtics Sixers in the second round. And, hopefully they get this monkey off their back on the way to a long playoff run.
I know Joel Embiid says he doesn't care, but I'll bring it up anyway. So
he's lying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, did you see what JJ Redick said the other day on First Take? He said, look, I know Joel Embiid. He loves trolling people. Like, he said, if you understand his personality, that this is what he does, which was a great example of, somebody who knows Embiid versus someone who doesn't know Embiid, Kendrick Perkins. Anyway, so Tim Bontemps, for those out there, he's famous or infamous, depending on who you ask, for doing the MVP straw poll. He said earlier today that it's such a draw right now that this is one of the few times he actually has no idea who's going to win, to the point where he said he thinks it's going to come down to the second place votes. Bryan, your thoughts on if the MVP turns into the Heisman Trophy and comes down to a point system like this?
Yeah, I mean, he released the final straw poll earlier today, and Embiid was 2 points ahead of Jokic. I think Jokic had 2 more first place votes than Embiid, but Embiid had more second place votes than Jokic.
Right.
So, at this, I don't want to get into the toxic MVP discourse or anything like that. I'll just say, I think there are going to be, every voter has different factors they consider. All three guys, Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis, in most other years would run away with the award with the stats that they're putting up. They're all just happening to put up monster seasons against one another. So I think like all three are completely deserving candidates. I think Jokic's biggest obstacle is going to be this perception of, the back to back to back, which hasn't happened since the 1980s with Larry Bird. Like, has he accomplished enough this season to put himself in that pantheon? Some voters aren't going to care and say it's like you got to evaluate each season on their own, and some voters are going to take that into account. I think team success, Milwaukee, best record in the East, Denver, best record in the West. Do you hold that against Joel Embiid? Like the advanced metrics are going to put, a lot of them are going to have Jokic as the best player in the NBA. The eye test, and I know there are some advanced metrics out there that had Jokic is the best defender in the NBA, and I think we can safely rule those out as being worth considering in the MVP debate. But
when analytics go wrong,
yeah, exactly. So I think the eye test component of, we've seen what Giannis and Embiid do defensively relative to Jokic. So how much do you weigh that end of the floor versus just pure basic box score numbers, or whatever advanced analytics acronym of your choice is? Like, every voter is going to be different, which is what the NBA wants. So yeah, I think it's going to be really close. I think all three of these guys are going to have a chance to make a closing statement. Obviously, Embiid missed the game Monday against the Nuggets, so that was one opportunity he was not able to take advantage of. We'll see. He's also nursing this nagging calf injury, and I think the Sixers need to balance keeping him healthy for the playoffs versus, he's always said like he wants to continue playing through this kind of stuff. He hates taking time off. He gets out of shape quickly, whatever. So they've got games coming up against Milwaukee and Boston over the next few days. So, if he has a monster performance against Giannis and the Bucks, and that maybe that's the closing statement. I think back to the Kawhi, Russell Westbrook, James Harden MVP race. I think it was 2016-17. And it was similarly, like, you could make a very good case for all three candidates. And Russ, I think it was like a 50-point triple-double in the last week or two of the season. It was just like, that was the Vince Carter, it's over moment. Like, everyone's just like, all right, you know what? It's Russ. So, maybe Embiid's got a 50-point triple-double that he's going to serve up to Giannis and the Bucks.
Yeah, I remember when Russ won. That was the moment I was like, finally, we're giving the award to somebody who actually is valuable, not just the best stat compiler.
Right.
The whole, is it most valuable player or the most outstanding player argument? I felt like that was one of those times where the V actually got involved instead of the O in that conversation.
Right.
Before I let you go, so Tim McMahon was on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill yesterday, and he made a comment saying that the Western Conference is just down. It's just not very good. And then he basically suggested that whoever comes out of the Western Conference better just assume they're not going to win the NBA title. What do you think of the Western Conference at this point?
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, we'll see what happens with Phoenix, especially as the playoffs, as the final 6 games or whatever, the regular season wind down. We'll see Kevin Durant get a little more integrated. He just made his return last night. Like that team certainly has the upside to win if KD gets integrated, gets comfortable. I think the Nuggets, it's fair to be skeptical of their defense, but their offense is thermonuclear. So I think they have a legitimate chance to win as well. No, I think the West, there isn't that like Warriors-esque 73 win team that is just steamrolling the competition. I think parity has been the big theme of the West this year. And, frankly, I think the East seems like it's probably going to be pretty chalky in the playoffs, especially given the news that Julius Randle that just came out today, he sprained his ankle. He's going to be out for at least 2 weeks. So, his availability for the start of the playoffs is very much in jeopardy. Like, I think round 2 of the Eastern Conference bracket is going to be Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, and Cleveland in whatever order they finish in. The West, like, I mean, I could see as many as 2 or 3 first-round upsets depending on how the bracket breaks. And all of these teams are still so clustered together. We don't even know who's going to be in the playoffs, the play-in, who's going to miss entirely. I think the East team that survives, assuming health, of course, whichever East team gets to the finals will probably be favored in the finals. But I do think the West is going to put up a fight.
Before I let you go, I have an assignment for you and your co-host, Mort, on the NBA podcast.
Okay.
So, because I'm not going to ask you to figure it out right now off the top of your head, unless you really want to. So today, on opening day, Adam Wainwright left the lineup of the field and walks up and sung the national anthem before the start of the Cardinals game in St. Louis. And he didn't do bad either. Like, he was actually hitting the right notes and stuff. I'm not saying he's going to win a Grammy Award, but he didn't embarrass himself,
Sure.
So
sure.
I want to know, is there an NBA player who can do that? Like, is there an NBA player who can walk out of the line and be like, I'm going to sing the national anthem before a game? And I don't mean somebody who thinks they can rap. I mean someone who actually can sing,
You have, at first I was going to just jump in and say Jordan Mailata, because we've seen what he did on the Eagles album. Wasn't Victor Oladipo, wasn't he on The Masked Singer? Am I misremembering?
He was, yeah.
This? So he might be the pick. I know Dwight Howard too was on The Masked Singer, so maybe one of those two might be. Although Dwight Howard's obviously not in the NBA right now, but Victor Oladipo is my pick.
I feel like you can't take Dwight Howard very seriously either. Like, if Dwight Howard walked up to sing a national anthem, you're not taking him seriously.
You know what I mean?
No. You look at Dwight as more like a jokester and a prankster and like a guy out there to have a little fun, Yeah.
I'll take Oladipo. I will not take Jalen Hurts, with all due respect. Great football player, not a great vocalist.
We will pencil in Oladipo to sing the national anthem next opening night of NBA season.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. Well,
here's the thing. What team is Oladipo going to be on next year? That's the problem.
I was going to say the Heat probably aren't making it out of the first round, so he'll have some time. And we can invite him to the second round series.
He'll have some time to practice. Is that what you're saying?
No, we can invite him. If they want us to ring the bell, he could go sing the anthem ahead of Celtics Sixers. Let's do it.
Would that be the worst person to ever ring the bell before a Sixers game?
It might be.
And here to ring the bell, Victor Oladipo. Depot.
A player from a rival team that you guys hate.
I mean, maybe if it's like Sixers Celtics, then it'll really confuse the Celtics.
Right.
But, I feel like it wouldn't phase the Bucks. Like, Giannis would just be not caring at all or making fun of it or something.
Yeah.
But I could totally see Jaylen Brown being like, "What's going on around here?"
Giannis would be too busy trying to find that ladder. He wants revenge.
Bryan, always appreciate you jumping on, folks. Check out the NBA podcast. Like, subscribe, download, give it the 5-star review. Also check out Bryan's work over with Forbes Sports and Liberty Ballers. Always appreciate you jumping on, and keep up the great work with the family there. I know it's been an interesting few months for you over there.
Yeah, it's been a trying week, but we are all on the mend. And thank you all. Thank you as always, Josh, for having me on. Hope we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Josh Hennig here on Game Night 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. We'll check in on your messages on the other side. I see George from Summers Point. He's on tap to join the show. We'll check in with you guys next. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Your DMs in the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. And the Phillies are currently losing 11-7 in the bottom of the 7th.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action. It's Flyers Senators tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN. And listen live on the free mobile app.
Mega Millions is now $355 million. With a win like that, you could take the whole family on your dream vacation or leave the kids behind with the in-laws. We won't judge. After all, anything can happen in Jersey.
I can't wait for what's next, even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Anderson, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right, you don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait, text PLACE to 200-300.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Mom, Dad, Sis?
Here we go again.
Why are you in a suit? Picture, if you will, a world with the best network imaginable. I'm talking about the Xfinity 10G network. Go on. Mom, remember how your reality shows wouldn't load with all of us online? Now you can binge. And Susie, we'll have fast internet in the basement.
Nice.
If you have any questions, here's my card.
This is just your name on a gum wrapper.
Introducing the 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Now through April 23rd, new customers can get 200 megabit Xfinity internet during our limited time Xfinity 10G network launch celebration for just $25 a month for 2 years. Plus, there's no annual contract required and you get Wi-Fi included. Go to Xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Actual speeds vary.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night is always being brought to you by my friends over at Jenkins & Sons. One call does it all. Just call them at 609-641-6440 for new heating and air installations, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, gas furnaces, leak repairs, and more. Call Jenkins at 609-641-6440 and visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. Don't forget tonight, Flyers hockey here on 97.3 ESPN. You know, Flyers have won 4 straight games, and I know that they are so far down on the interest list for the casual fan right now. But hear me out for just a couple seconds here on the Flyers. As I believe about the Sixers, I believe it's how you finish sometimes is what matters. I think John Tortorella deserves a bonus or something, you know, like just something to thank him for the fact that he has made this team competitive. He has brought the most out of young players who were underachieving, like Morgan Frost and a guy like Owen Tippett, who Florida got rid of him in the Giroux trade because he wasn't working out the way they wanted him to. You know, Noah Cates was not supposed to be a mini Sean Couturier. He was originally not even a center. And they moved him to center, and now he's become a guy that people are questioning, could he win the Selke Award one day? Excuse me. So I think that John Tortorella deserves a ton of credit, and this Flyers team continues to fight and be competitive no matter what. So I'm interested in how this game goes tonight for them after winning 4 straight. How does a team that was not supposed to win, has been through a ridiculous last several months, how do they turn this around? Do they keep winning? Do they lose tonight and win a little more after that? I'm curious to see how that goes. Previously mentioned over on the text board at 609-403-0973. George in Summers Point chimes in and says, hey, Josh, they say the ability to come back in a game that you were losing and win is the mark of a champion. Recently, we saw the Phillies and Eagles last season do that many times. Does the Sixers doing this make you any more confident in their ability to go far in the playoffs this year? That's from George in Summers Point. Couple things. One, George, I think that it gives me confidence personally that this Sixers team has more resolve. Even Doc Rivers admitted that we couldn't do this last year. Like, we were incapable of doing what you're seeing us do this year, last year. So at least to me, I look at it as this is a positive. Now, I think the biggest problem for the Sixers has and always will be the turnovers. I will never let that down. I will never let it go until they show me they can consistently not be a team that makes dumb turnovers. To me, George at Summers Point, I think that they know that they can win tough games. And I think that resiliency will help them in the postseason. And I think that this is a situation where they will be in the postseason, they will be losing a game, and they will know they can come back and win, and they will probably get it done. So that's where I feel positive. That's where I feel like this could pay off for them at least. By the way, shout out to Jeff in Ocean City. That Aaron Nola over strikeouts I recommended to him definitely was a fail on my part. I just want to admit that on the record. I mean, Nola just imploded in this game today. Phillies are still losing 11-7, but considering that we are at the rate where the Rangers and Phillies are both changing pitchers, what it feels like almost every inning, there's still a chance they can come back in this game, although Brandon Marsh is grounded out. But hey, Phillies can still come back in this game, going to the bottom of the 8th, but it's not looking too good for them. On a day where we are celebrating the Sixers' improbable comeback, we are lamenting the Phillies' inability to win on opening day and watch them go to the NLCS again this year. And they lost on opening day. Thanks again to Bryan Toporek for joining the show. Thanks everybody for messaging in, as you always do. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk more Phillies, get into them tomorrow, as we'll have a full picture of how this game went when we get on the air tomorrow. Again, remember, Phillies play tonight, not tomorrow, then Saturday. And don't forget, Sunday Night Baseball. We will have Phillies versus Rangers this Sunday here on 97.3 ESPN FM. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Flyers hockey. Next.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Harden outside right to the corner. Harris, 3-point shot, bottom. Nailed it. Clutch Trey.
It's Sixers Raptors tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.